Hey everyone. So I wanted to come on here because it just feels really present and at heart right now. I have this question. Can we realize that all human beings, can we actually understand that all human beings have the possibility, the potential, and actually fundamentally have already a split way of working in the world, of functioning in the world, of looking at the world? Yeah? Human beings have the right to be divided within themselves. Basically, to say one thing here and then to do another thing here, or to even honestly say something, not in a hypocritical sense that obviously exists as well, but actually with let's look at it from like an honest perspective, saying one thing and intending one thing over here, and then in another aspect of our lives doing something different and intending and not really transferring that integrity from here to here. That is very possible. Why is it that we are expecting a human whose persona, whose personality, whose story, whose past, whose role in the theater of humanity, in the theater of this dream, that's all here for our awakening, that is literally all here to serve us, so that we can look at our own mind, so that we can look at ourselves and see the work that we need to do so that we can heal and we can become the light of Christ, right? That true self, that bodhisattva, or all the words of basically enlightening into the truth of who we are. This whole theater is here for that. Every person, the presidents, the people, your neighbors, the dog, your pets, the people you've lost, the people you will lose, the fights you have, the romantic partners, the excitement, the travel, literally everything is part of the design that is here to wake you up to who you are. 222. Literally, life is working with you and for you so that you can wake up to be the maximal potential, or the maximal expression of the essence of who you are, which is God's love, which is light, which is authenticity and integrity. And so when we look at someone like Charlie Kirk and what's gone on with him, and what's going on with the world, and the murders that have been happening consistently in, all the wars, but specifically let's talk about, right, what is going on in Palestine and Israel, what is going on in Sudan, what has been going on in so many parts of the world, right? Ukraine, deaths upon deaths upon deaths upon the stage of life. And this is not to diminish. Calling it a stage doesn't diminish it, but it does give us perspective into not getting caught in it and keeping our roots where they belong, which is in the divine, which is in the Christ, which is in the truth, in the light of truth. That is where we are rooted. That is where we are being called to all the time, especially in moments like this, where we get tested about our beliefs about what's right and wrong, where we get split up and we take the bait on all these discussions about what was deserved and what wasn't deserved, and who deserves it more and who deserves it less, when in the end we are all creations of one Father, of one Mother, of one. We are all one. And what we say and think and feel for another and towards another, even if they're just in our mind and their body's not here anymore, what we feel, say, and think, if we hold it within our own consciousness, it is a poison that we take ourselves, right? What's that saying, that beautiful Buddhist saying that, anger is literally a poison that you drink yourself. You drink it thinking it's going to hurt the other, but all you do is poison yourself. This is what it is. And so I feel like there is this lack of just willingness to see that this man, in his role and whatever part in the divine play that he played to awaken us, to get us to say something, maybe to speak up more, or to love deeply, to forgive deeply. I mean, there's so many possibilities here of what he can represent for you and what he represents for the collective, right? Like the shadow aspect that comes up in the collective so that we can all begin to wake up a bit more. All of the things that are happening in our lives, including Charlie Kirk, including Palestine, including, what's happening in your neighbor's house, including nature and what's happening in the world and nature, and like, here's my little kitty. Speaking of nature, all of it is part of the design to awaken us, to heal our heart and mind, to bring us into more unity, even though on the level of form, it looks like it's dividing. And it is only truly dividing if we allow it to cause the split in the mind, which is, Course in Miracles is always telling us we've believed in a split from our Creator, and therefore we have a split mind. We literally allow the ego to run our lives, the personality, the persona, the culture, the programming, all that past information, the patterns, the wounds are dictating the way we look at life, are dictating the way we treat our brothers and sisters, the way we forgive or not forgive, right? And then we get caught, we continue, it's a continuum of the past, and it continues to repeat itself through the present because we have not let go. Because we cannot see what is truly here now, that is beyond the behavior of the person, that is beyond the words, that is beyond the behavior and acts of a country. Again, it does not condone it, but it gives us the ability to be in the right mind, to then do the acts that are required, that are truly most helpful. Because when we are coming from the personality self, when we are coming from the character within the play, when we are coming from our own opinions, we are dealing with the two sides of the same coin, of the same egoic coin. And the invitation with stuff like this, and literally with daily life, excuse me, is to release the coin and to begin to see how it all plays part in the divine play, right? In the Leela of this dream, of this illusion of Maya, which we're awakening to. The light starts to pour in more when we are being called to go within, to really say, what is it? Jesus, you show me. Show me the truth of this entire thing. Because everybody can use Jesus's name. They can use Christianity. They can use the Bible to say this is right, that's wrong, this is what the thing is. And there we go. Literally using anything in the world through the perspective and lens of the ego. And we're back at the coin. And God is beyond the coin. God is beyond duality, beyond the polarization. And if we want to be rooted in God and access the truth about anything that is actually happening, because what's underneath, the call that's happening underneath, not the waves on top, because we're focused on the surface, we're focused on the waves. What's happening underneath is the real call to humanity, to go beyond what is humanity, but humanity at the most compassionate level, right? That's what I mean by humanity. The call for union, the call for truth, the call for healing of our own past, of our own patterns, of our own baggage, so that we can look at it, we can express it, we can release it, we can say what's on our heart, but not stay there, because that's not the truth of who we are. We expose the coin, we expose the ego, we expose the opinions, so that we can hand it over to the light of truth, to spirit, to really come upon us and show us the truth, not based upon judgment, not based upon right or wrong. This is the thing. In this world, it's like, oh no, if it's right, and then it's good, and it's of God. And then if it's wrong, and it's not of God. But there's a huge missing piece there. There's a huge missing piece to believe that we understand how many times in our lives, in the things that have happened to you, that you thought were bad, that you thought were literally maybe even evil, bad for someone, bad, that were evil in the world, that happened in countries. How many times have we experienced those bad things having a result, a turn of events, a domino effect that has progressed and moved humanity, moved the children of God to realize who they truly are, moved people to become closer together? And yes, there is always the option, because in the human experience, it's a divided mind, right? We believe we're divided, and therefore at the core, we believe we're divided. Ego and fear, ego, fear, and then spirit, truth, love. This is literally what's happening within us all the time. And so we're either listening through one voice or the other. And so let me gather my thoughts here. We can use anything in the world and look at it through the lens of ego. And from that lens, judge everyone and bring in the coin and make something seem right or wrong. Anything, the Bible, Jesus, this is what literally most religions have done, have taken something sacred and pure through the lens of the ego and made it dual, because the mind is already in duality. So it projects duality upon everything. So this is how deep we're going. The depth, the call to heal is so deep, it's in the mind. And so stuff like this is perfect opportunity and perfect example to see how we get caught up on the surface and can miss the mark, literally, the meaning of sin, missing the mark. Okay? It's not a scarlet letter. It is not something you should be whipping yourself about or allowing others to, apply more guilt than we already have in our unconscious split mind to whatever it is that's going on for you. We are missing the mark. And many of us have missed the mark again and again. And we all have a script. Charlie had a script. I have a script. You have a script. And in that script, you play a role for the awakening. And many of us will reach a certain point, a certain chapter, and others won't. And it's still part of the script. This doesn't mean we don't do anything. This doesn't mean we don't care. This doesn't mean we don't feel and love and attend to and serve our brothers and sisters. This is not what it means. But it does mean we do not fall into this division, this against, this protest, this fight for or against something, because all we're doing is perpetuating the same lie about who we are at the core. Literally the lie that maybe even a person stood for. Maybe the person lived their lives in that lie. And just by having and fighting against this person, what they did, what they stood for, is in itself the basis of division. It's literally what they did. So we're just recreating, we are just maintaining, prolonging what is actually asking to be healed, because we're caught on the surface and not listening to the deeper call. So I ask you, and I do this myself, right? Like, I'm always questioning. This is a video that's not meant to be like, oh, I'm so informed about who this person was and what they stood for. And no. I see the Christ in all of us. I see the Christ in those who have suffered from the person who also was killed, right? Whose body was killed. Let's say that, because in truth, that person is not, they're not even that character. That's not who they truly are. They're the essence of light, of Christ, of love. That is who they are. And whether they knew it or not doesn't matter, because what matters is what's in our mind. As we heal our mind, we heal the entire mind, because the mind is one, because we all are one. So literally going out in defense and getting caught up in the coin of right and wrong, of this and that, us versus them, continues the whole thing that's here in the mind. It just replays, brings in, projects guilt, shame, both ways. Some seemingly more moral than others, but at the end of the day, it's still the same game in the mind. Does that make sense? So the invitation here is to take a step back, go into prayer, really listen deeply, erasing the thoughts of your family, the thoughts of society, the thoughts of, all social media. What is it that the Spirit wants to show me? What is it that God is showing me about this? And how can I show up with love? How does this, we are all one, so how does this affect me at the most intrinsic level, so that I can show up rooted in truth, in God, in the divine, in who I am. And I can look upon all my brothers and sisters from that internal posture and act from that place. That is the invitation here. Not to get caught up in the story, in the past, and the dids, and who said what, and how it happened, and the conspiracies and all that stuff. All part of the game, all part of the drama. And we are here to wake up from it, to live life joyfully, to embrace each other's different ways of expression, to speak truth when it is needed, to show up in the I am presence wherever we go. But we can't show up in the I am presence if we're coming from the character, right? Charlie Kirk is a character, but I'm a character. Steph is a character. And if I show up as Steph and Steph's beliefs and Steph's thing, then I am not going to be rooted in the I am. The I am will not be able to flow through me and actually bless this world with the light that it needs to see the truth, to reveal the truth, to have brothers and sisters join, which is what we ultimately want. That is what we ultimately want. But we can't get to what we ultimately want by taking a side of the coin. We have to step back into ourselves. And then from there, from that internal prayer, from that internal rootedness in the divine, in God, step forward with clarity, with love, with curiosity to learn. So I ramble on. I don't know if that makes sense. It felt like I needed to share it, and if anybody resonates, just let me know. I'm not here to convince anybody. I am here to share what's on my heart, what's coming forward right now, and I think it's valuable to see more information that takes us below the surface and beyond the message of what's happening, which is where we're spending our time and our energy, and it's pulling us into that frequency, when truly the frequency that's being called is much greater, much higher, and it's deeper. And from there, we can come forward as our truer selves, as a more complete, more loving society, because in the end, we're all one. It's not even, we're undoing this idea of all being separate beings. But okay, step by step. Love you all so much.